welcome everyone to another edition of Midweek with Max. Thank you all for attending. Due to the state of my voice, I'm going to instantly pass it over to Max, and we can get started with the updates. Excuse me.
All right, sounds good. And Rick's a bit under the weather, so we're going to keep this. We're going to try not to make Rick laugh and let him get some rest after this. But journal update. So a lot of work on the engineering side towards zk-Proofability of the network, which is useful on the Ethereum settlement side, as well as our implementation of BitVM. Also finishing up the BitVM paper for what we're doing unique in that area. So looking forward to publishing that very, very soon. We're just working on some final pieces there. And also a lot of the Daemon Refactor stuff we've been working on is coming to a close. So being able to run different parts of the Hemi stack independently in a more easy manner. So if you want to run just a BFG instance or a BFG instance to run your own Popminer again, stuff like that, making that easier than the previous setup, which depending on what exactly you wanted to do, you had to run the whole stack or most of the whole stack. So getting that broken up, more modular, and easier to develop on top of. For example, if you're doing new modifications for a custom Popminer, things of that nature. So a lot of that's coming to close. Also, just in general, looking towards TGE in the near future. We still do not have a date locked down, and I'm sure we'll get to that in questions. But we are still at very soon, and there's just some final pieces with third parties that we're getting to land. So work's continuing there, stuff's progressing, and hopefully we'll have a more detailed update on that to give in the near future. So with that, I'll pass it over to Rick, and we can start getting into questions.
All right, sounds good. Okay, let's get right into it. Well, you kind of covered the first little batch of questions, so I mean, what the hell? Let's make it official. Max, when TGE/tokenomics info?
Soon. Yep. Still some stuff landing to get that out, but the team's working on it. We're making progress on third-party dependencies, so hoping to have a more precise update on that in the near future. But for now, it's still in progress, and we do not have a date locked down as of today.
All right. When will pop points be visible from testnet?
So they should be visible for most people. We had an additional issue with the export from last week, and so we should be getting those in by end of day today or tomorrow for any of the people who were caught in the edge case of some of the addresses that they linked not being associated correctly. So the vast majority of people, those should be available and correct, but we are still fixing that edge case that affected some people who had a lot of addresses linked. So that should be done in the next, say, 48 hours.
All right. I don't see a John Greenwood, so I'm not sure if you can answer this one, Max. Any idea when the second epoch of Deimos verification will come to an end?
Still not decided, so that's basically going to be working backwards from our TGE date. And so once that's nailed down, we'll walk backwards and basically give a buffer of the end of the second verification to end sufficiently before that for us to run stats, see all the addresses that were validated in both Deimos epochs. So no end date set, but if you haven't done the second verification, now is definitely the time to do it. There's no benefit in waiting to do that until the very end.
All right. Yes, sooner the better on that. Just, like Max said, there's no reason not to. Are there any updates for node license holders?
No updates since last week. So basically right now the node sale ecosystem is pretty much nobody's interested in the node sale model at the moment in the market. And so there is some interest on the institutional side, but it doesn't look like at this time we're going to be reopening the node sale publicly. That could change as if the market sentiment around node sales changes. If you already did buy a node, you will be taken care of either with getting the node you bought or something equivalent, but no updates on reopening that sale mechanic publicly.
All right, thank you, sir. What is the relationship between Hemi and Block?
Hemi's basically spun out of Block. So block spins up projects, bootstraps them, and then as projects mature, they basically get spun out as their own entities. So it's Hemi's basically incubated by Block originally, and then spun out as a separate company with pretty much all the same people in it.
All right, thank you very much. Oh, I just lost my place. Forgiveness. Okay, I understand that TGE/tokenomics is coming soon still, but this question is, has the Hemi token been created?
There is not currently a Hemi token in circulation.
All right, thank you. And yeah, and we have seen some posts.
And also add on to that real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, there are some people who've minted a fake Hemi token on, I think there's one on Ethereum, there was one on BNB chain, I believe. There was one somewhere else. So any of those that you see, it's not a real token. It's somebody trying to trick you into buying a token that's called Hemi, but has nothing to do with the project. So if you see a Hemi token on CoinGecko, on the unverified tokens on some random DEX or something that is not the Hemi token, do not buy it. That is just basically a phishing scam.
And I will refer all of you to the safety channel on our Discord. Basically, TLDR is, if it didn't come from us, it's not official. Chain Builder will let third-party chain use Hemi as Bitcoin security as a service. How exactly will those chains pay for that security? Fees, which require Hemi stake or both, and how will the revenue be routed back to Popminers and Hemi stakers so value accrues to the core Hemi community?
Good question. So the mechanic for that's going to be basically parallel to what Hemi does to Bitcoin. So Popminers on Hemi spend Bitcoin to pay transaction fees to publish Hemi state to Bitcoin. And then for L3s, they'll be paying Hemi tokens on the Hemi network to publish L3 data to Hemi. And so there will not be a staking component to pop mining because it's an open system where anyone capable of paying the fees to publish data is allowed to participate in the system. So same as, you don't have to stake Hemi tokens to be a pop miner and secure Hemi to Bitcoin. You're not going to need to stake Hemi tokens to pop mine L3s. Now, L3s themselves, they could introduce a staking mechanism for their pop miners with, some token on their side if they wanted to for some reason. But that's not part of the normal design, if you will, of pop mining, which is not only permissionless, but open participation as long as you're able to pay the fees for publishing data. And so there will not be any Hemi staking component to pop mining in general, unless an L3 independently decided to introduce that for some reason or another. But it will be paying Hemi tokens and fees to publish that data to the Hemi network. And then those will basically be collected as fees as part of the overall Hemi ecosystem. And some of that, depending on governance and game theory and the cost of Bitcoin publications, could get shuttled to pop miners on the Hemi to Bitcoin side.
All right, thank you very much for that explanation. Excuse me. What is the builder role, and how can someone get the builder role?
That's probably more of a Rick question, but in general, basically people who are building projects on Hemi, whether that be working on a DApp you want to launch on Hemi, whether you're working on a stat site for Hemi, a custom version of the pop miner that lets people configure fees in some new way, things like that. Anything that you're developing around the Hemi ecosystem, if you are serious about developing that and you want to be in a community of other people developing on Hemi, get help from people on the Hemi team with questions specific to Hemi's architecture, HVM, any of that, that's what the builder channel's for, and that's what the builder role's for. But I will throw it over to Rick for maybe some of the details on how exactly to get at the verification process, all of those items.
Sure thing. So, Josh, if you don't mind, can you post the command in the community events chat? Basically, you can apply for the role, and then our engineering team will evaluate the credentials attached to it, and on approval, you'll get access to the builder channel, where you can then interact with the Hemi engineering team as well as other builders for support and also like kicking around ideas and what have you. Right. what is the next major milestone for Hemi's protocol team, and how does it align with the project's long-term vision?
Broadly, there's, I'd say, two things in the relatively near term that are related, but they're definitely separate items. The first is decentralizing the sequencer. So basically using Ethereum-style proof-of-stake for decentralizing block production on the L2. And the second is the BitVM settlement system and zk-Proofability side, which basically lets us have a very capital-efficient, highly secure, basically a one-event trust model, Bitcoin tunneling to the Hemi network, and then with a future upgrade to the tunneling system, what we're calling, now codenamed, bidirectional tunnels, being able to additionally tunnel that through Hemi to the Ethereum ecosystem. So those are the two main engineering milestones in the relatively near future. And then further out, obviously the chain builder system. We've talked about the shared sequencing and shared DA system secured by Bitcoin that will eventually be able to support a large L3 ecosystem in a very secure, cost-effective way. But that's further out in the roadmap versus the BitVM zk-Proofability side and the sequencer decentralization.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. I like questions that start like this. It means we have repeat listeners. Last week, Max was talking about a chain update for which node operators need to update their nodes. Was this update done already? If not, can we update the nodes already to stay synced?
Good question. So for mainnet, we did the update for testnet last week, I believe last Tuesday. And so if you're running a testnet node, you will have had to update with the latest pull from our local node running instructions and Docker containers in the Hemi network repo. We've not done it for mainnet yet, so we're still testing that upgrade on testnet, and we'll probably schedule the mainnet upgrade later this week. And once we schedule that upgrade and get timestamps for that upgrade activation for mainnet in, then that's when you need to pull the new containers prior to the upgrade timestamp to stay in sync with the network. So we'll communicate that when those timestamps are set, when the new images are available. So anyone who is running a mainnet node has time to do the upgrade, over the weekend or the next week, more than likely. But we'll communicate all that. There will be at least 72 hours of notice of when you have to update your node by in order to stay in sync with the network.
All right. Here's one I can field. What is the Hemi Alliance? The Hemi Alliance is effectively, in broad strokes, our ambassador program. So there's going to be 3 tiers for the program, potentially more, TBD. But we'll be posting the I'm so sorry, I'm a little foggy right now. We'll be posting the missions in the Discord announcement channel, and then if you just follow the links and instructions through Guild, you'll get credit for participating in that exact task. We don't have a clear date yet for Tier 2, but it should be within the next 2 weeks. Basically, people who qualify for Tier 2 will be able to ascend and do different tasks and what have you, and that'll carry over to Tier 3 as well, and additionally in the future. We'll release full information about all that when it's ready to be shared, but for now, I'd say just keep participating and just stay active and enjoy it. It's a really cool program, and we've seen some really great stuff being made for it. The follow-up to that is, are there any rewards for people who join the Hemi Alliance? I don't have specifics on that yet, but the plan is that other tiers would be incentivized in some way. Max, is there anything you want to add to that, or does that work?
Nope, yeah, I think that covers it. So yeah, as Rick said, still in level 1, we'll be announcing the transition to level 2, announcing it later this week, and then activates early next week, right?
I believe so, yes. That's the current plan being discussed. I'm so sorry if you can hear me typing. I did not mute my mic. I'm sorry, Biggs. Okay. Where are we? Oh, we have another repeat listening question, which I really enjoy. I'm much more enthusiastic than I sound, everyone. I just don't feel well. My apologies. Recently, Max mentioned that the POP payout protocol will target 4 miners, but in an earlier AMA, he mentioned a target of 6 miners. Pop miners in the beginning of mainnet probably calculated their fees based on this higher number and paid accordingly. Can you explain?
Yeah, so that won't be a problem. So the target is going to be 4 pop miners on average for the new payouts protocol, but that's not active yet. The current payouts protocol active on mainnet basically just distributes 100 pop points evenly between anyone who successfully pop mines within roughly an hour and a half or so. And so anyone doing calculations on mainnet pop mining profitability is basing it off of their share of that 100 tokens that they're getting for their current participation versus what they're paying in fees, independent of the new payout algorithm, which would, instead of just distributing 100 pop points, it may distribute 75 or 150 or 200 or 50, depending on how many people are doing pop transactions versus that target of 4. So nothing with the current payout economics on mainnet have anything to do with whether the target's actually 4 or 6. It's just that equal distribution of 100 points per keystone period for now. That will only matter with the new payout algorithm once that's implemented. But right now, just for clarity, if you're pop mining on mainnet, your profitability calculation should be how many pop points are you getting in exchange for what you're paying to do a pop transaction, irrespective of whether there's 2 people doing it, 8 people, 12 people. It's all about how many pop points you're getting versus your input costs, basically.
All right. Thank you, sir. I saw a couple things in a chat regarding this. Do we have any updates about the Hemi hatchlings?
No, those should be done to get those done by the end of the week. Everything's been finished. We just gotta borrow some team time to get those deployed and distributed. So very soon.
That's an amazing update. Thank you, sir. Okay. The initial bridge is custodial. What are the specific technical triggers that move us from this trusted model to the decentralized tunnel, and how do you manage the bridge's risk until then?
So this is specifically on the Bitcoin tunnel side. So to clarify, right now we're on what we call tunnel V0, which is the over-collateralized custodianship model where vault operators post collateral and they can secure an amount of Bitcoin that is less than that collateral's value right now, 70%. And there's only a few assets that are whitelisted to be used as collateral. And the next version of the tunnel system there may be updates to some of the game theory assets, adding some features, but the next major update for V1, that will be the BitVM system, or our modified version of BitVM. And that's where we move to a one of n trust model, where that n could be 100 or 1,000 network participants. And then for that system, there would still be collateral used, but it's not over collateralized. Instead, it's relying on that one of n, basically one of n, one honest participant out of a large n being honest and paying attention to the protocol and being incentive aligned for disputing invalid bridge withdrawal attempts to basically earn a profit from the protocol for identifying misbehavior.
Oops, I gotta unmute that as well. Okay. What is the target ratio of staked Hemi value to the TVL it secures? And what automated circuit breakers protect the tunnel if the token's price were to go lower, preventing an attack from becoming profitable?
So I'm not exactly sure what this question's asking, so I'll do my best, but whoever asked this, if you want to add additional clarification, we can get into specifics here. There's not an exact ratio of, so the Hemi staking system is going to have a lot of different use cases. It's internally, we're naming it the converged staking system. Basically, it's you stake Hemi tokens once, and then you can opt into a bunch of different parts of the protocol that you want to participate in. So whether that be being a sequencer, or whether that be being a publisher of data to Ethereum, the batcher and proposer roles from the optimism side, whether that be providing, cross-chain liquidity, whether it be participating as one of the end participants in covenant emulation for the BitVM construction. There'll be future things with the L3 ecosystem for the shared sequencing, shared DA system that will use Hemi staking. So that all goes through one system. So there's not a direct, ratio of Hemi staked for a particular purpose, like securing a liquidity protocol. For some things, it'll just be market finding equilibrium. So whatever the emissions are for sequencing against how many people find it useful to stake Hemi to earn those rewards for sequencing. And that's a self-finding equilibrium. Obviously, we'll set rewards for a certain target of the total Hemi supply being staked that we think is sufficient for network security. But that's not something that's enforced. It's something that's economically incentivized. On the tunnel side specifically, you're probably talking about either the TVL on the Bitcoin tunnel being secured by participants in the future in the BitVM system, or people providing liquidity for faster onboarding and offboarding of Bitcoin as kind of a liquidity wrapper that absorbs risk for, again, faster onboarding and offboarding without waiting for lots of Bitcoin confirmations, or in the BitVM case, the long withdrawal process to complete. And so for that, the amount of Hemi tokens staked would be relative to not the amount of for the BitVM tunnel would be based around a number of participants and making sure that there's enough participants who are sufficiently equitized to pay attention to the system, which is divorced from the amount of TVL they're securing. So whether they're securing, 100 Bitcoin of deposits or 10,000 Bitcoin of deposits, the incentives may need to scale a bit for getting more participants so that people feel comfortable with the number of participants securing that 10,000 Bitcoin and watching the system and submitting fraud proofs, things of that nature. But it doesn't really scale with TVL in that sense. It's more about the number of incentivized participants that are paying attention to the system. Now, on the liquidity side, the Hemi staked would be relative to the value of the liquidity that's being provided. So, for example, if somebody's staking Hemi tokens to facilitate, up to 1 Bitcoin being deposited through them, and then they go and rebalance through the slower tunnel system, then their Hemi stake would have to be more than a Bitcoin to make sure that they're always economically aligned with executing the correct transactions, either on the Bitcoin side or the Hemi side, that are getting assigned to them as part of running that liquidity side of the tunnel. So there's different pieces to that. If you're securing TVL in the native tunnel with BitVM, it's more about the number of participants. And if you're providing liquidity in that liquidity wrapper around the tunnel system, that will be relative to the actual amount of liquidity that you're responsible for correctly fulfilling transactions for, and that'd probably be something around 130% over collateralization, something in that realm, maybe a little higher in the early days.
All right, thank you, sir. Where am I? Okay, before the tunnel is live, why would a dev choose to build on Hemi today over just using another provider? A more mature L2. I believe they mean in longevity, not necessarily we're silly. What's the immediate hook to the Hemi tunnel?
So a couple of things. First off, the tunnel system is live. It's on the Bitcoin tunnel side. It's that V0 system. So I think you're asking, why would somebody build on Hemi before the V1 BitVM system's activated? And for that, it's the current tunnel system is sufficient, but it's economically inefficient because of the high collateral requirements. And also on the developer side, there's a lot of stuff you can do on Hemi, with either tunneled Bitcoin today or natively with Bitcoin using HVM. So basically, there's two types of Bitcoin DeFi. And the first type is basically take Bitcoin, bridge it, or tunnel it to a system as an ERC20 or the equivalent of an ERC20 in other ecosystems, and then use it in existing DeFi infrastructure, trade it on Uniswap, borrow against it in a lending protocol. The second type of Bitcoin DeFi is building more bare metal Bitcoin native applications that can actually interact with Bitcoin directly or incentivize people to do stuff on Bitcoin directly without needing any sort of tunneled assets. And so for that second version, if you're trying to build those sorts of Bitcoin native applications, Hemi is the place to do that. With our HVM system, with the Bitcoin full node that's embedded inside the EVM, that gives you unparalleled access to Bitcoin state in your smart contract. And so if you want to build, say, a non-custodial Bitcoin DEX or a non-custodial Bitcoin lending protocol, a Bitcoin MEV marketplace or transaction accelerator, all those things, you can build those with HVM in a very bare metal Bitcoin native way. and you can't do that on any other chain the way that they're either building some limited version of Bitcoin interoperability tech or don't have that Bitcoin programmability, Bitcoin visibility tech at all. So it depends what you're building, but both of those types of Bitcoin DeFi you can build on Hemi today with the existing V0 version of the Bitcoin tunnel or with phase 0 of HVM, which gives you access to the UTXO table, transaction data, chain geometry, and network fees.
All right. Thank you, sir. Let's see. Where was I? Here we go. What's a quote-unquote killer app that can only exist on Hemi once the tunnel is live?
I'd expand this question a bit. So the tunnel is just part of Hemi's infrastructure. So having V1 of the Bitcoin tunnel, the more economically efficient, even more secure version based on BitVM, that lets people onboard large amounts of assets more efficiently. And the Hemi's unique position between Bitcoin and Ethereum means that you can also bring that Bitcoin through Hemi very securely to the rest of the Ethereum ecosystem. And so I'd say that's one killer app, is basically replacing all versions of Bitcoin in the Ethereum ecosystem with a version that is secured by native L2 settlement security and BitVM all the way through the chain of custodianship. So basically, if you look at most other Bitcoin L2s, they are just Bitcoin L2s, they're isolated. And so as soon as you want to interoperate between that isolated Bitcoin L2 and something in the Ethereum ecosystem, you're introducing new trust models. It could be some interoperability tech that relies on a group of oracles to report data, or it could be some system that integrates tons of different chains and inherits risk from one of them failing and losing some of the liquidity in the system that is parked on that chain. Whereas with Hemi and that dual L2 architecture or dual L1 L2 architecture, the entire transit route for Bitcoin through Hemi to the Ethereum ecosystem will be secured by basically the best security you can have for settlement on each of those respective sides. That being said, for killer apps, I think that's a killer app given Hemi's position between Bitcoin and Ethereum. There's also a lot of killer apps that can only be built with the Bitcoin visibility that HVM provides. So kind of like the list I already went through, building that more bare metal Bitcoin DeFi infrastructure. That's something that you can't do on other chains with their limited view that's available with, say, a Bitcoin header relay system, or introduces trust models for oracles reporting UTXO data. So those types of apps, given that unique Bitcoin awareness, I think will be one of the areas where we see unique things on Hemi that you just can't build anywhere else in the ecosystem.
All right. Breaking up from technical questions for a minute. This is coming from Gladdy. Has Max already had a chance to appreciate how amazing his hair looks in the Hemi Heads game?
I have not yet. Rick sent me a link to it, I think, yesterday, so I definitely got to go check it out.
I can attest that your hair does look fantastic in the Hemi Heads game, and the entire community should check out the Hemi Heads game. It's based on Flappy Bird. I believe Alex is running some kind of a contest involving the hair token. So that's definitely something you guys should look into. I can yeah. After this AMA, I can call him on stage. He can say more than I can, mostly because his throat works and it's his thing. So let's see, where the hell was I? Right. What the? Okay. The Bitcoin to Ethereum tunnel is incredible infrastructure. Well, what's Hemi's strategy to prevent itself from... Did I already ask this? No, I did not. Okay. But what's Hemi's strategy to prevent itself from becoming a backend that other L2s use to access BTC liquidity while capturing all the users, developers, and DeFi value of their own chains? How does value accrue to the Hemi ecosystem itself beyond just transaction fees?
That's a good question. So high level, basically, if your version of Bitcoin is the version that everyone uses in DeFi, that's a huge win. So there's obviously the transaction fees on the actual onboarding and offboarding of that Bitcoin. And also, if people are using and trusting that version of Bitcoin in other ecosystems, they're much more likely to deploy those applications natively on Hemi itself, because that is the closest to the Bitcoin side you can get. So it's a matter of, obviously there's, brand and name recognition, there's trusted builds in the protocol, there's TVL that's basically coming through the Hemi tunnel system and counts by many metrics as TVL in the system. There's also ways that you can use that liquidity flowing through Hemi to make Hemi dApps more liquid. So basically, if you're the basically the onboarding mechanism of an asset into whatever DeFi ecosystem it is, whether that be Hemi onboarding Bitcoin into the Ethereum ecosystem, whether that be some protocol that's onboarding real world assets somewhere, being that chain or protocol that's closest to that asset always has benefits far beyond fees in the liquidity that just naturally gathers natively on that onboarding protocol, if you will.
All right, got a couple other engineering questions, all within that same sector. Just to find my place. Forgiveness, please. Okay, what happens when a government compels your regulated partners to freeze assets or block addresses? Will those actions be enforced on the decentralized Hemi chain? And if so, is that considered a permanent backdoor?
It's a good question. So the high-level answer to this is why we decentralize things. So when you decentralize portions of the network, then you no longer have the ability to enact, freezes or blocks of assets or whatever, because you don't have control over that part of the protocol. So that's part of the reason we are racing to decentralize every single part of the Hemi protocol, is so that we don't have the ability to do that anywhere. Now, obviously, that decentralization is a gradient, and you still need to maintain some level of the ability to upgrade a smart contract in the event that there's some tech issue, or you need to support something that's relevant to an Ethereum upgrade. But the goal is over time to completely decentralize even that upgrade process, make that all driven on-chain by governance. And so we, as members of the Hemi team, developers, whatever, wouldn't have the ability to do any of those actions on the chain. So that's a process, but that's the end goal, is we would not have any of those abilities once Hemi is finalized, baked, fully decentralized. As for partners, it basically comes down to who the partner is and what they're doing. There's some parts of DeFi ecosystems that will, they cannot be completely decentralized. So, for example, fiat on-ramp, right? Like, they're always going to be touching banking infrastructure. They're always going to be touching, whether it be credit card processing or wires or whatever. Those types of, on-ramps that touch traditional legacy infrastructure, there's no way for them to sufficiently decentralize in a way that they wouldn't have that control. But then that's a matter of, are you willing to take that risk with that particular protocol for the utility that it's giving you? And that's independent of Hemi's own architecture and its own decentralization. And that just comes down to, what's the partner doing, and what are they doing to either decentralize their protocol and disintermediate it so that they don't have that level of control, or if that's impossible, whether people are okay with that level of control for the value that that protocol is adding to their use of the DeFi ecosystem.
All right, thank you, sir. And of course, as I'm rapidly losing my voice, we have possibly the longest question in the history of Midweek with Max, so brace yourself. Okay, going to try to get through this. Hemi's super finality anchors state roots to Bitcoin, which is a powerful defense against chain reorganizations. However, the real-time security that prevents a fraudulent transaction like stealing funds from the bridge still relies entirely on the honesty of the 2/3 DPO's validator set. How do you plan to communicate this critical distinction to your users, ensuring they understand that the Bitcoin anchor does not validate individual transactions? And how do you prevent the powerful anchored to Bitcoin narrative from creating a false sense of security about where the real risk lies?
I think we may have just killed Rick with that last question. So to unpack that, so it's not true that 2/3 or any portion of the validators on a L2, at least with the usual L2 architectures, including the way that Hemi's built, where any majority of that consensus power could go and steal funds from a bridge. So the only thing, basically, you have to look at the different layers of chain security, state transition functions, how data gets incorporated into the chain, and there's different things that different participants in the network can do to attack various layers of that. But it's not a matter of whoever controls the majority of consensus gets to write whatever they want into the chain. Right? There's still rules that govern what constitutes a valid transaction, how you validate chain state for a withdrawal either on the Ethereum tunnel side or the Bitcoin tunnel side, and none of that can be manipulated no matter how much consensus power you have. So if, say, somebody controlled 2/3 of the sequencing power, they could censor transactions from getting into the chain. But because of the way L2s are built, you always have other routes to relay transactions into the chain that those validators do not control. So, for example, you can go on Ethereum and submit I call them offloaded transactions, but a force included transaction that must get included in the chain and is seen and considered by the protocol, regardless of what the sequencers on the network do or do not allow from their mempools to get into blocks. So there's always that exit route to introduce transactions, whether that be initiate a withdrawal over the tunnel or whatever. You can always do that through force included transactions that sequencers do not control. And also, as with any network, sequencers cannot insert bad data. So no matter how much consensus power you have, you can't introduce a transaction that, say, steals some user's funds or updates the actual state of the system in a way that's not allowed by the rules of the protocol. And so you can censor transactions, you can make it a pain where people have to go through that transaction offloading mechanism and post their transactions to the L1 to get incorporated into the L2, but they cannot actually attack the settlement mechanisms. They can't submit an invalid proof to the tunnel system and be allowed to withdraw funds they shouldn't be able to withdraw. Things of that nature are at the protocol data validation layer, not the control over what blocks get produced layer. And so for the Bitcoin side, basically, you can think of Hemi's security model as a hybrid. So we use Ethereum for DA, and then we use Bitcoin for fork resolution and the finality of state. And so a majority control over the sequencing power, they could go and censor transactions. But again, you have that force include backdoor, basically, where you can always get transactions into the chain, even with 99% or 100% sequencer censorship of either everything or you specifically. But then on the Bitcoin side, with proof of proof, we're publishing state roots of Hemi to Bitcoin. And so that's a protection that things that were incorporated into the chain do not get reverted. And so it's two different security models. The POP side is not about what's allowed to be what state transitions users can introduce into the system. It's about if you did a state transition in the system, as in you did a transaction that did something that you wanted to happen, making sure whatever mechanism you did that through, whether it's force inclusion or a sequencer including your transaction through the normal process, with proof of proof, that's making sure that that state transition doesn't get reverted in the future and somebody can rewrite that chain history with alternate state transitions in the future. So it's two different parts of chain security there. It's the making sure things that happened remain having happened and do not get reverted versus who's allowed to introduce those state transitions or prevent state transitions in the first place. And that's where you have that back route through the L1.
All right. Thank you so much for that. That gave me a little time to get some voice back as well. Hey, Josh, do we have any other questions? Because I'm not seeing any. Unless I missed something, which is possible, but I don't think I did. Okay. Oh my God. That brings us to the end of questions. All right. Oh, yeah. Nope. Not touching that. All right. And I won't reveal what I was referring to. All right. Well, thank you all for coming to another Midweek with Max. I want to give a shout out to all of our moderators, community helper, and intern. Of course, thank you to our co-founder, Max Sanchez, and Joshua and MP, who is lurking quietly on stage. Max, do you have any outros before we switch to community stuff?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. So stay tuned for some updates on some information about our version of the BitVM system. And we did talk about scheduling another engineering AMA, so I would like to get that on the calendar. Maybe do that sometime early next week. But we'll have to check everyone's schedules. And the ideal case would be, hopefully we can get this BitVM white paper finished up and published, and then give people some time to digest it and make that a tech call about tech in general, but we can have a carve-out section to discuss some of the cool stuff we're doing on that BitVM tunnel side. And beyond that, stay tuned for more information on tokenomics in the near future. We're still getting things finalized. We want to make sure that the launch is successful, so we don't want to rush things unnecessarily. So we want to see it as much as everybody else, but we are making sure we're doing everything right and preparing for successful launch versus rushing something out. So appreciate everyone's patience with that. And with that, I'll turn it back to Rick.
All right. Thank you all. Where's Alex? Alex, get on stage. I'm going to give a quick update regarding some things, and then I'm going to turn it over to our lead community moderator, Alex, who is going to talk for me because I don't have much of a voice left. So, hey, thank you, bud. Okay, so OG roll still coming. We don't have an exact date. It is more cosmetic, as we've explained before. The roles to really like sink your teeth into are the creative roles. So based, content creator, and winning contests with community creative. We will have some sorts of incentives for those in the future, and we'll get a clearer picture once we announce those. Hemi Alliance is going. I will inquire with Guild if it's possible to edit. I'm assuming you mean if you submit something but then want to change it to like a better submission or something like that. I'll double check with them and see if that's at all possible. I'm foggy AF right now. I'm going to turn it over to Alex for a hair update as well as Hemi Heads with one of our creatives, Gladdy, great dude. David Wellsberg, thank you for the amazing stickers. If you guys have seen in general chat, there's a whole host of new stickers by some awesome creators. You can find their names in the meme channel. Really doing awesome work. Alex, I'm going to mute now if you want to give your update, and then if you want to let people sing, you're more than welcome to, but I don't think I can talk anymore. So with that, all yours, bud.
Okay, thanks. Everybody hear me well? I hope. Okay, thank you. I'm not sure it's better my English than your voice, but I will try. So first thing I want to say, it's I see a lot of people who want work with Hemi, work for Hemi. First things, at my point of view, the mindset to keep is what I can do for Hemi. It's the first thing to ask to yourself what I can build for Hemi, and after your efforts, all efforts have noticed, and I can say one thing: Hemi really support all builders, all projects in their ecosystem. So the mindset to have it: what I can build something, and after you can ask to work for Hemi. That was the first point. Second point, it's about Hemi Bros, and I heard something about Min Park 2 and a DEX like Atlas. Some people say Hemi support this project and chill this project, and now they have Hug. I want to say you was Hemi don't know they want to rug. Hemi just want to support ecosystem project, and what they show us at start was really cool. We always say do your own research, Dio. And I'm really sad about the situation. I hope it's just a sleeping project, not a dead project. So in any case, first rule is Dio, do your own research. Yes. Yes. Sorry. And yes, I want to speak now about the Hemi head. So maybe Glady want to take to speak with me. I don't know, but as I say, Hemi support his builder, and Glady make a great work, and just make a game like Flappy Bird with Hemi and Air brand. I mean, we can share the link in the chat, so you can train yourself and you can try the game. We just launched a contest about it on the Air server, and there will some Air to win. So come join us, and our first round is just after this AMA. So join our Air server and come to play with us. Thanks for the link. And just before finish, a last word. Glady have a tons of idea about this project. Now we have a partnership between Air and Hemi Heads, but it's only first one, and I mean there will be really cool stuff to come really soon.
I can actually put that in the announcement channel too, just so everyone can get the link to the game, because it's really fun. And obviously, like you guys are welcome to share updates in the creative channel, the ecosystem projects channel as well. I think would be good just to like spread the word about it. And Max's hair looks fantastic in this game. I can say our teammate Jeremy said it's pixel perfect. So there's that. Alex, if you want to ask people if they want to sing, I can give XP in a roll. Otherwise, we can just wrap it up. And I'm gonna go take more Daemon.
Yes, I can. So the karaoke is back. So if someone want to apply for the Rap God role, he can apply now. Put a message in the chat, and we give him the right to speak. And let the show must go on. So have we some volunteer who want to sing? To obtain the Rap God role. Oh, Divine want to try? Very nice. I don't know. Joshua, you can give her the good rights?
I kicked an invite.
Oh, thanks, Rick. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Hey, welcome to the stage. I'm sorry I sound like this. On the plus side, you're going to sound way better than I do. So, oh God, that hurt.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Hello, everyone.
Hello, what you want to sing? You can start when you want.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me now?
We hear you. We hear you perfectly. So you can start to sing if you want.
So, can I start now?
Yeah, start. Let's go.
Let's go. So, seems like everybody got a prize. I wonder how to sleep at night. When the sale comes first and the truth comes second, just stop for a minute and smile. Why is everybody so serious? Acting so dumb, mysterious. Get your shades on your eyes and your heels so high that you can't even have a good time. Everybody look to their left. Everybody look to the right. Can you feel that? Yeah, we're paying with love tonight. It's not about the money, money, money. We don't need your money, money, money. We just wanna make the world tense. Forget about the price tag. Ain't about the cha-ching, cha-ching. Ain't about that, yeah. Bubbling, bubbling. Wanna make the world tense. Forget about the price tag. Okay. We need to take it back in time. when music made us all unite. And it wasn't low blows and videos. Am I the only one getting tired? Why is everybody so obsessed? Money can't buy us happiness. Can we all slow down and enjoy right now? Guarantee we'll be feeling alright. Everybody look to the left. Everybody look to the right. Can you feel that? Yeah, we're paying with love tonight. It's not about the money, money, money. We don't need your money, money, money. We just wanna make the world dance. Forget about the price tag. Ain't about the cha-ching, cha-ching. Ain't about that. Yeah, bubbling, bubbling. Wanna make the world dance. Forget about the price tag. Thank you.
Thank you. It was amazing. Thank you a lot, DeVray.
That was so good. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
doing that. Roll and XP have been given.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. We have another challenger. Who is next? Someone want to sing? The level is really high today.
Yeah, the bar is very high. Max, is this the day you do Rap God? You usually don't stay for this portion.
Not following that.
Oh I don't think anyone's going to follow that. All right, well, that was an excellent way to end this episode of Midweek with Max / the community update. Again, my sincere apologies for how I sound right now. Biggs, I'm so sorry that this recording is probably going to have me sounding like I've been smoking Newports for 52 years. David, I can sing at some other point when it doesn't feel like I swallowed a glass of broken glass. Today is not that day, sir. All right. With all that said, thank you all so much, and we will see you in Discord and on our socials and other places too. I'm loopy. Forgive me.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you a lot, and have a fast restoration, Rick. And thanks, Max and Josh. See you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Rick.